So apparently there's a big report about the Trump campaign owing almost $2 billion. So I want to see what these CNN reporters have to say, what kind of slander they can come up with, and see what their details are.
Donald Trump's ballooning debt. A new Forbes breakdown of his finances shows Trump owes more than $1.8 billion, a number that's actually exploded just since he left the White House. Out front now, Forbes senior editor Dan Alexander, who's been pouring through Trump's finances. So Dan, a lot of this debt actually comes from legal judgments, $454 million to the state of New York after being found liable for fraud. And he's actually racking up millions more in interest. Walk us through what else is there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The biggest one is that 454 plus the interest, you get to 482. Then you go to his real estate portfolio. He has 360 against a tower in San Francisco.
I thought they were talking about his campaign debt, not his actual debt.
Many of these buildings have lots of debt on them, but there's also the E. Jean Carroll case, two cases where he lost and it was ordered to pay $88.5 million.
I'm not really surprised that its real estate portfolio has debt on it. I don't know why we're showing that. Like, that's some kind of like breakthrough, man. If I had a Tesla, I wouldn't sell it. Beats gas, and I get to fuel up at home. I mean, Trump and Elon being in charge of all our agencies, that's scary as fuck.
Interest is also accruing on that. So if you put those two legal judgments together, just those things alone, you're at about $575 million. And then you have all of the real estate stuff on top of that.
So let's say even if case is under appeal, right? So there's a chance that changes. So if we put that aside, the legal judgments, you've been mentioning the real estate business. What really stands out to you most in terms of the debt there?
The one that I think will be potentially most troublesome for Trump is connected to 40 Wall Street. So he has $118 million of debt against that building. And his leasehold interest in the building, we estimate, is only worth...
They're really going on about his real estate. Like, are we surprised? Are we surprised that he has mortgages and loans out on real estate? I don't think anywhere he's ever tried to cover that up. Specifically, when they brought on this video, they were going to talk about campaign debt, not his personal debt and real estate. It's just weird. It's like they're really reaching to try and find something.
It's $116 million. So it looks like the building is a little bit underwater. And that debt comes due in July of next year. So he's got to figure out a solution here pretty quickly. There are two options. One is he could go find a bank to refinance the loan. But banks are going to be pretty skeptical of refinancing an old, aging office building where the occupancy is going down since COVID. Or he can pay for it himself. He has about $400 million in cash. Also, these legal judgments hanging over his head. Does he really want to tie up, say, $120 million paying off this debt? That's going to be tough for him to do. But in any case, he's going to have to figure out some solution here as he's rounding the corner into 2025.
So he talks a lot about just how much cash he has. Bottom line, does he actually have enough cash to cover these debts?
The big question is whether or not he sells off shares of the Trump Media and Technology Group. This is the parent company to Truth Social. Mm-hmm. Right now, he has about $410 million in cash, but he has $1.8 billion in liabilities. So
if you don't have debt in real estate, are you even in real estate? But the thing is, like, they're asking this guy questions like he knows how much money Trump has. Like, he's going to be able to solve that equation. And he's just bringing out of thin air, Trump has real estate debt. Well, no shit. We all know that. This guy doesn't know how much money Trump actually has. He probably can't even get down on what income Trump brings in to pay off these debts. He's just looking at these buildings and going, oh, big scary number. We can actually throw this out on CNN.
He's going to have to sell something. And those shares right now they move a ton, but today are worth over $4 billion. That makes up the majority of his fortune right now. If he sells a big chunk of those, especially if it's before the election when people are really excited about it and it's trading really high, he could easily pocket $500 million, $1 billion, and then he wouldn't have to worry about debt concerns at all. If instead he hangs on to them, then he might be in trouble.
So even with the assets that you do know about, you're saying he's not in hot water, not even counting the income that he's generating while bringing in, the side of the equation you're not even talking about here. So this whole story, what you just said, is a nothing burger. Why are we even talking about this?
What are the chances, though, of that happening?
Of him selling, you never know. I mean, it would, from a business perspective, it would make sense for him to sell them. Okay, this is a guy who needs cash and he's got a huge asset and these are liquid shares. He should sell these from strictly a business perspective. Also, he can sell a big portion of his shares and still hang on to a big portion of the company. So it just makes a lot of sense, but it would send the signal that he's not fully behind it. Maybe he doesn't fully believe in it. And Donald Trump doesn't like to project weakness. So how do you predict how Donald Trump's ego plays into all of that? That's a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and fascinating that some of these zones, including the one you mentioned, 40 Wall Street, coming up next summer. That is a lot to think about. Really appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
The Wall Street Journal notes.
Wow, that was terrible. That really was like an awful video. Really, like awful. Like there must have been a slow day. Really must have been.